be really wonderful if we can just get ourselves back on the seats and sit down and settle down after that amazing session for yet another wonderful talk that awaits us. Thank you. So this is our first session after the Junior Kolkata Literary Meet is over on the other side. But those who are interested in P.G. Wodehouse, there is a session on Jeeves and the legacy of Jeeves with Ben Short, who's writing new P.G. Wodehouse adaptations for the Wodehouse estate in conversation with Otri Bhattacharya and Shomo Bhattacharya. For those who want to be at the Paresh session, Infinite Light, Paresh Maity, in conversation with Darshan and Abin. Can you please just settle down? I would in the interim like to invite the artist. Paresh Maity is somebody who has brought such color into our lives with his beautiful watercolors and oils. And it is a complete privilege to have our local boy on the stage for the very, very first time, the flamboyant Paresh Da. With him will be another wonderful local boy who is really making us very, very proud, Abin, who's also debuting at the festival this year in this session. And they will be in conversation with one of the staunchest allies that the Kolkata Literary Meet has, Darshan Shah. We'll start the session with a book launch of Paresh Maity's Infinite Light, which is co-authored by Ranjit Hoskote. So we will just do a little photo op of the book before we start the conversation. I'm so sorry that John Da was getting really, really passive. Over to you, Darshan.
Thank you, Malvika. Good afternoon, everybody. A very hot afternoon, and after that session with Shakti, I hope all of us have enough Shakti to go through this session. Paresh Maity, a Padma Shri awardee, needs no introduction to our city. 88 solo exhibitions, 7 publications of his art, and now, November 2022 to February 2023, he has opened the largest ever art solo show in India, which is being presented with 450 artworks, oil, watercolors, mixed media, ceramics, sculptures, textiles, and films, Infinite Light, in 5 cities. It started with Delhi, came to Kolkata, Mumbai, and Goa, and now waits its inauguration on 26th of February in Bangalore. So big round of applause for Paresh Da, and a very warm welcome on behalf of the Kolkata Lit Meet and the audience. Abin Da also needs no introduction, but is the pride of Bengal. Abin Design Studio is designing the Museum of Modern Bengal for the JSW Foundation, nominated in 2022 for 2 projects for the Aga Khan Award, Geneva. Abin Design Studio's exhibition and work has been presented and published by CEPT, Center for Environmental Planning and Technology, Ahmedabad, a prestigious university. From Architectural Review, London, released Abin Chaudhuri's works, How India's Urban Peripheries Can Be Transformed. He has also been a part of the Biennale Salon. For the past 9 years, Abin Chaudhuri has been in the top 100 list in South Asia for architecture and design by Architectural Digest. He has done several public projects and installations. He is the founder, Kolkata Architecture and Kolkata Architecture Foundation and Kolkata Design Collective. A very warm welcome to you, Abinda. I'd like to start with asking Paresh da. Paresh, could you tell us a little bit, I don't know if all in the audience know of your journey, of how you came to choose art and light as your medium.
First of all, thank you, Kolkata, Litmate, Malvika, and I'm very happy to really, launch my book in front of Architectural Wonder, the Victoria Memorial. My journey of this infinite light started more than 5 decades back when I was nearly 7 years old. That time I realized that any form of visual art, without light, there is nothing. Just imagine now we are here. If there is no light, what will you see? What will you visualize? So this exhibition, Infinite Light, germination was 32 years back when my destiny took me to Delhi. Now it's 33 years. So I was planning this exhibition that there will be an exhibition where whole of India, because India is so big, Delhi, Bombay, at least some major metros can see this exhibition. So I was quietly, collecting my own paintings without showing anybody. Nobody knew about this collection, in which, as Darshan already said, that there are 450 artworks, drawing, paintings, watercolor, sculpture, installation, painting on textile, which I have done in her workshop during last 2 years. And also there are 6 films I have done in this. And it's a 5-city exhibition, as she said already. So every city has a different set of artwork. And you will realize that each and every artwork, either even a small watercolor or a big watercolor or a largest painting, the light plays the important and vital role. And in this exhibition, like there is a painting 3 inches by 6 inches to 45 feet. There are sculpture like 7,000 kilo. It goes with a 40 feet open container. That is just started, 3 days back in Goa. So I'm honored to be in front of you to unveil this Infinite Light book at Kolkata Lit Fest. Thank you very much, Malvika. So that's my short journey that I could tell you, Darshan.
Thank you so much. Abinda, we'd like to hear a little bit about what really inspired you, your journey in your younger days, your parents, your connection with the city, and your education, and what really inspired you to become a very, very different kind of sensitive and passionate architect.
I think thank you and good afternoon. So I don't want to be an architect by any chance. By the way, I want to be a ceramic artist, but most of my family are, most of them are mathematician or work on statistics. So, it's quite difficult in my family to someone shifted from that genre and coming back to the art form. But, one quest I always had, because, in Bengal, there is a lot of no sensitivity in terms of architecture and the global south per se. And when I was in Jadavpur and also traveled to multiple places across the globe, I've seen how architecture cannot be respected in terms of not for the common people. It has to be always for elite. And that was a very fundamental questions in my college life, I have been, trying to figure out what could be the one, solutions or a kind of a movement that architecture can be an, part of the mainstream. And that's also connections within 30 minutes flight to Bangladesh. It has an amazing story of architecture. But being in art and culture and drama and performing arts, Bengal is one of the pioneer in the country and probably producing many talent across the globe. But always architecture is always in back seat, and we realize that being an architect, we never been create a value for the people. A larger people, because it is always confined of 0.1% of populations, and rest of the people doesn't know what architecture and architecture responsibilities and other things. So the idea of research and idea of work has started with going back to the peripheries, which I am born and brought out because I am not from the Calcutta. So I thought that that is the most convincing way to celebrate architecture and design within common people who really need that idea of design, and architecture is something and tool which really resonate and change your life. And that's the beauty of that design. And for last 14 years, we are working on urban peripheries, not only in Bengal, and also now beyond the Bengal. And we try to celebrate design through a common people who have the same aspirations which we have, being in the city, but they could not get the access of the design. We provide the design and celebrate the design, and bringing that part of the life and architecture amalgamate together and creating this journey. And that is why we thought that, architecture is, being an architect, it can be a social hero, and I really feel for that.
Yes, and congratulations, because you've been awarded for all your efforts, and you've built an excellent team, and you've really grown not only within Kolkata but all over. So congratulations in that. I'd like to ask both of you, is modern architecture more removed from art than ancient architecture?
No, I think it's somehow architecture has been conceived visually, but it has to be experiential, okay? It has an x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, plus time. Because, Paresh can really make an amazing painting, and that can be fit in New York apartment. My design cannot be fit in New York. The kind of design, the context, the temperature, the context, each and everything is very, very depend on space mechanics, physics, and also the idea of context and temperature. I cannot make in a brick house and a concrete which evolved from the soil and connected to European countries. But that's the beauty of art and architecture and music and architecture. And that is why I thought, it has to be more contextual rather than an ancient and modern. But I have no idea of what is modern architecture is, to be honestly, because people thought about modern architecture because people don't understand what modernity is, because it has to be translated for a kind of an contextual understanding of this place. And that place has to be celebrated through the design process, and then could be timeless. Because there is no modern or ancient, because probably a 14 years old building is a more sustainable building and a more beautiful building, and you go buy a ticket and still visit it. And even in 400 crores, recent hall designed by someone else, you really hate it. And that's the beauty of modernity and ancient. And it's a very blur line that we don't define, and that's a pity, but that's how the education really becoming and terrible in terms of our design educations. Yeah.
Paresh, what would you like to say on that?
As Abin said that, no, you cannot differentiate. See, if you see the Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris or Frangerism architecture, they are both are Frangeries. Is that correct? Yeah. And they are beautifully incorporated art. and it is like united. Art and architecture beautifully merged. But somehow we don't see today in here that that is happening. But all over the world, art and contemporary architecture, what you were saying, the modern architecture, they really go, parallelly. It is never one-way traffic.
But why do we not see it? Why don't we not see more of it now that we have so much opportunities, so much funds, so much social media, so much awareness? What I don't see is that art and architecture coming on a platform and collaborating more often.
I think in today's time, what you are saying, Abin, I'm sorry, like when they try to make a building or any kind of specific architecture, first, as you said that there are a lot of funds. I don't think there are enough funds to really promote both equally.
So Abin takes it away.
Because you will see most of the cases when the building is ready, everything is done, then they are trying to acquire some art. That should not be. Architecture and art should go parallelly. It should blend each other. So that is not happening, and that needs a lot of funds today. Because art has become very expensive. Let me tell you that. Not that anybody, and also the material cost and everything has become very expensive. So incorporate the art. Let's say I will tell you one day, I met Mr. Oberoi. I did nearly 30 years back some paintings for their lobby hotel in Bangalore, Oberoi. And then, recently when he was renovating the Delhi Oberoi Hotel, and he was telling me that we don't have budget. Because the 30 years, I think the art prices have gone such, as you know, one of Gaitonde's painting can be 35 crore, and you can buy or build a beautiful house with the 35 crore. I have a feeling that, because to incorporate both art and architecture together, somehow there are some financial issues. I have a feeling.
What do you think, Gobinda?
I have a two perspective of this. Okay, so one perspective is government projects. Government today, the biggest real estate. Okay, they have money, but the funny part is the biggest project which is happening. I'm just talking about, let's say, periphery like Bengal. Okay, and it's an pity to find out a jury committee headed by an irrigation engineer. Okay, now how can you expect the design will be judged by a nonsense jury board? Okay, and finally it's land up, and you find out there'll be an CM decided something, somebody IS officer decided something, and you make a mockery of that whole project. Okay, and you spend a lot of money. So probably on a budget of a government museum could be completed in a 6,000, it goes to 16,000 with a nonsense finishing. Okay, the question is, you have money, but you don't know how to produce it. Okay, and that's the most saddest part. And rather than making a kind of a 400 crore dhunodhanne kind of a nonsense building and making 4 crores and 100 micro projects with a complete periphery, and that could be phenomenal if the jury and the perfect decision on architect can be done. That's the situations. Now they have money. Okay, now coming back to the private sector. Okay, the question is, there has to be education required. Somebody needs a brand, like many of my clients. First, before designing, do you know, Paresh, can I get you a painting? I said, that's called come with 1 bedroom cost. Imagine first decide that. That's the funniest part, but I'm saying that this is, architecture design is evolved from the soul. You're not buying something, an object. It has to be experience, okay? Every day, 24/7, it will live in that. Art, architecture has to be amalgamated. You need to put an art, then you need to have a blank wall. And, you need to, like typically an art piece need to have a canvas. So you need to accept the canvas. If you clad and paint and cladded so much of material that you find out a new artist. So what is happening is there'll be the lack of understanding of design lose the bonding between art and architecture. And that's become, if you know how to really calibrate the whole experience of art and architecture, you know, to think from day one, okay? You can't think the last day when your budget is over, as Paresh has said. Also, it has to be a place. You need to figure it out, that canvas, to design it. And that's a problem. I think that's a lack of education. And honestly, when a third point is, in whole India, there'll be a 570 architecture college, okay? In Chennai itself, 62, Mumbai, 57, Bengal, 5. And only two good design college, probably people think about it, which is Jadavpur and B College, okay? And both are super engineering college and worst design department. And you can't think about it. They can produce a sensible design architect who can think on this. And there is no design discussions happen here. So that's a third point.
That's the reality. That's a reality. Thank you for that, yes. So, yeah, but the solutions are like, it's very difficult to have a person like you go and teach, So if they could even think of today's technology and kind of record y'all and actually have y'all doing classes over and over again in different colleges where it's going to be an audiovisual, that would really help. But I don't know when the government and the private sector is going to understand the role and value of this unique way of spreading education, awareness, and the sense and sensibilities and the balance that architecture needs, and so does the understanding of art need. So to ask both of you, Abinda and Paresh, how do you visualize space in architecture vis-a-vis space in art, as in painting? So you have a canvas and he has a open land, and how do you visualize?
Space is very important, how you, arrange the space. When you have a canvas, I have a canvas in front of me, like 30 feet. Now, how to arrange, how to compose, how to draw, from where to start, all the elements, which kind of line, to capture the space very beautifully, I think is very, very tough and very difficult, especially when the space is large, the bigger space. That is very important to, let's say, I'm having an exhibition. Now in that exhibition, gallery, or maybe this time in my Bombay exhibition, Infinite Light, it was in 3 film studios. They are huge film studios, like each of the studio would have been, let's say, Indo Stadium, 40 feet tall, and your painting is, let's say, 7 feet height. Now, how to accommodate that space with your art properly, that is very, very important. And I'm sure, also Abin, when he is doing his piece of art, architecture, how he's thinking where to put art and all this sculpture or installation, which is very, very important. And many times, most of the time, what I see, they have, let's say, 20 people have 20 feet wall, and they have a sofa, let's say 8, 9 feet, and then they are thinking, 3 feet by 6 feet would be, look very nice. But that's not the correct thing. You have to really capture the space. Otherwise, it might get lost. Either it might get overpowered. So the space is very, very important. Let's say when you are putting up a sculpture outside, in front of this huge architectural wonder, to hold that space, you need to visualize very carefully how big, what size, what character, what atmosphere. It is very, very important, the utilizing the space. Otherwise, it will not even, get that impact, visual impact. It will get lost unnecessarily. I don't know what Abin is going to say now.
Yeah, I think with space, I'll add two parts. One is people, because a space without a people has no deal. Because I feel that, there is a word called soul in the shell, because shell is a space matrix, okay? But the soul will be established when you're designing with the people, and how the people would adapt that space, okay? Now there is the microcosm of architecture or designing in a space is not about an adjacent space. So it's not an object you are creating. It's also the object, the space, and the people who will be using this and surroundings, how the space dynamics works. Because the scale is a very important part of a space. And Paresh is the master on that. Because scale is a very, very vital role in this kind of sense. And that is the science. And a people, you will be mad to stay on a palatial house in a 5 days together, rather than you will be very much lovable to stay back and come back to your own home within even much smaller. But that space dynamics give you a comfort, and that's the beauty of the spatial context. And in that design of architecture, space is a very, very vital role, but we take an added layer to it, which is an adaptability and people, and without that, the space cannot be visualized.
So you have completely different takes, and that's interesting, the canvas and the other space. So, Paresh, I wanted to ask you, why did Indian art not get any real recognition internationally and remains mostly in the collections and homes of Indians, whether it's in India or abroad?
Well, it is Indian art. I think you are talking about a contemporary Indian art.
Yes.
Contemporary Indian art is very, very new, very young. And the exposure of contemporary Indian art has just started. And remember, the country like Italy is so small, maybe the size of any of our state. And that country has maybe more than 5,000 museums. Now, Calcutta or any big city, you imagine how many art galleries, how many museums we have. When a guest from abroad, they come, they want to see a beautiful art, because ultimately any civilization exists with art, culture, architecture. Now, if there is no museum, if there is no beautiful art galleries, like charity begins at home. Like if I don't have a space to exhibit my work properly, if there is not a proper museum to project our own artist's artwork, then how other people will recognize? And that is why, Indian art is moving out now, the contemporary I'm talking, and they're getting exposure, which is very slow, but I'm very optimistic that in some time, when there will be a lot of museums will be in India with private or public sectors, effort, then Indian art will be recognized, hugely. Let's say, Van Gogh, Monet, Manet, you think of their time, how long, and we are very, very new, because we are more into miniature, we are more into our tribal art, folk art, and our traditional art. But contemporary art is just very, very young, which is just, germinated maybe the 75 years back, real contemporary art. So we need little time to cross that barrier and make into a big landmark in the world. But before that, we need really a lot of important museums. Because we have artists and art everywhere. We have every corner of our road, we have artists. We can have, like they say, 7 wonders. India has 700 wonders. But how to restore, how to project them, how to expose them in the world. We have enough resources, we have enough artists, art. But we need those proper places. See, when I was even a student here, I used to exhibit Academy of Fine Arts. It is just behind you. Still that is there. There is not really so many years, 35, 40 years have come up. many things have happened, but nothing bigger than Academy of Fine Arts, or to bring an international exhibition, that kind of space, that kind of atmosphere, not created anything here.
Yeah, except for Imami to a certain extent. But Abinda, where do you see this? Where do you see this gap in terms of museums and architecture and funding and understanding and bringing to the public domain? Also, the other public installations and issues that you think need addressing, and how can this be done, at least in our city, to start with?
See, one point is, of course, we don't have an conscious and sensitive decisions to make more museums in our states. And it's like, I'm not talking about only this, but in that way, post-independence, one modern museum has happened in Patna, okay? And that's Bihar Museum is one of the finest today, okay? And very organized, one of the finest museum ever made post-independence. We had a choice, but we spoiled like Kemoma, okay? In 7 years we are struggling, and still it's in very, very nascent stage, and we could not grown up to that level of completions. I don't think there is the issue of money, but I feel that it's an massive, impeccable visionary decisions, but we lost because of ourselves, not for the money. It's an intention. And I think that is one. And also, as a whole, Global South doesn't respect public space. If you see, the public space has to be a more defined, because, I'll just explain very quick, because in Europe and America, how they propaganda and create a proposal for public space, because they feel that somebody and people who cannot afford individually, the government will make them for them to easy access, okay? Here, everything is, caged. If you have a public projects or public museums, you have to be barricaded, first of all, and somebody will say that, no, if you keep it open, somebody will take it away. But, the engagement, you need to create and feel, and, if somebody is taken and you take the confidence, it never happened. I'll tell you, in this, I have worked within 14 years, often completely peripheries and rural sectors and some of the cities. Nothing has taken stolen away. That intention of public large installations and art pieces and museums and other things has completely out of radar. And this has to be bring in, and that's important. And also, idea of concourse, which is, I'll tell you what is concourse level. In metro stations, you always live and give to concourse level, where you don't have to buy a ticket. But like in Pompidou in Paris, and every museum has a concourse level. So here in a public project, you must have a free access to someone to, intrigue you into the process of sensitized designs for a public people. And they will follow all those things. And it's not about, and it cannot be only city. It has to be across the states and countries. And, Kerala. Amazing. And I was in Calicut for a master jury for a design festivals. And you can't figure it out, such a beautiful and a rural market design to a city design has been calibrated by local people and local architect, and which that sensitization is happening from the child, like in a villager school has been taught with this kind of culture. And that's missing. I think that's quite a holistic approach and an overarching things that we need to think about, what we really need for contemporary art to be part of our life.
So part of a school education to start with, and not to distinguish so much between the different layers or levels of people.
Yes.
Which is happening even today after 75 years of our independence. Paresh, a very pertinent and question, you may not like it. Your expertise lies from miniatures to large-scale art. How does the square foot price calculation influence your artistic choices?
See, art is not a land, 1 acre, 1.5 acre, or 1 bigha, 1 katha. Art does not have such barriers. And it does not have any square inch or square feet or, square meter, such things. If it is correct that square feet is this much, then the miniature painting wouldn't be that expensive. They are very small. Remember, miniature, you think of Dali's paintings. When you see, I don't know I'm sure most of you have seen the Dali's original painting. When you see Dali's original painting, they are very small in sizes. They are not like Picasso's big size of painting. But when in auction houses or any place, hammer goes, the prices is not according to the size, it is according to the quality of the art. So you cannot, although it's very unfortunate that today's time the people try to calculate how much is the square feet, how much is, this much, that is not the actual fact to really price for a piece of art. Piece of art, you have to see how the good, bad, but now that is also very important, or ugly, important that where you will, say that, yeah, this is the good piece of art or good art. So many people, they ask me that, this painting is this big, so the price should be like this. That's not the price. I really never thought of it. After making the painting, I see how beautiful it is, how correct it is, how masterpiece it is. Then the pricing should be there. So,
but your galleries don't work like that.
See, the gallery artists, they create art. They are basically dealing with the Saraswati. Then it goes to the gallery. They are dealing with the Lakshmi. So it's a two different thing entirely. Now, the galleries, they want to promote artists in a different way, different league. They want to sometimes do this, do that. But remember also, artist and gallery, artist and gallery, it is also like coexist. It's beautiful, it's parallel. You cannot even differentiate because, see, tomorrow, as she said that I have 87 solo exhibitions worldwide. All my exhibitions were done through galleries. Because you won't believe, behind this infinite light exhibition, how many people they were working. Today you see one piece of art. How many people are behind that? So when the gallery is involved, how many people they are really trying to do things correctly to project your art properly, to place your art properly. So you have to give them also certain kind of credibility to do. But sometimes it happens, most of the times today it happens that this big painting, that big painting, but that is not all the time. Like Ganesh Pine's painting, Ganesh Pine paintings are very small in sizes. I'm sure all of you know, but they can be very pricey. So art should not have any barrier like
size.
Square inch and sizes and shapes.
So coming to you, Abinda, with FSI being the basis for determining real estate profitability, is architecture in Indian cities destined to be perpetually ugly?
Yeah, I think there is an Harvard Design magazine has made a very interesting study in Indian architecture, because where you look upon in future, most of the cases, the beautiful architecture of India is happening in B2, C2 and D2 cities, because in city, doing architecture is in mathematics, okay? So you can't really play well because it's irrelevant to, works mathematics because its land cost is so high, okay? But the moment you go peripheries, there is a large land and you can play well, and also there'll be not as much bylaws which really forcing you to really calibrate, because you have a large land, you have a small requirement, you can play much better, okay? So that is why most of the cases, the beautiful architecture in India is happening in most of the urban peripheries, not in the metro cities, because most of the metro cities are really struggling with numbers. And that's relevance, and it's all going verticals. And I think, of course, the future of architecture will be more transformed into how you reduce the carbon footprints, climate change and other things, and technology and the process and other things. But definitely, if you look up to architecture, you have to go out from the city. That's the future of India.
So I really want to thank Paresh and Abinda. I think they've taken a lot of my questions very graciously, and I'd like to open it up to the House, and I would ask them to take the mic around so the audience questions can be taken.
I have seen some of my family members who are doing architecture, engineering sort of thing. They never read material science of architecture. While 10 years back, I have seen material science of architecture by a Russian author. Why? Because every material, how much strong, how much tensile strength, so on, so many factors, people are not taking care. I think that book they should read. I have the book, they can take a copy.
Next question. I don't think that was just a comment.
I started today. Today, unfortunately, is we have just got the news that Mr. Balakrishna Doshi has expired, and we are today we have just come to know that Mr. Balakrishna Doshi has expired. A fantastic architect whose mainly contribution in the southern side. My question to you is this, that once upon a time, Calcutta used to be called the city of palaces. Okay, now that has degenerated to an extent that where you have lost all hope, and so do we. Why it has happened so? I am an outsider. I have got into Calcutta a few years back, and I'm appalled to see the kind of structures here. And with even 40 feet building, which is called, what is it called? Okay, what flat is? But then even there something can be done. Even in the facade something can be done. Why this is not happening? We know that every square foot matters, but why there's such a bit huge ignorance on this particular thing? Any idea?
So as I told you, because it's a fundamental questions, and we asked ourselves these questions, and it's come to an same fundamental, my relation is in educations. Because you need to understand, because Calcutta produced only 2 architecture college, B College and Jadavpur University. They are very profound in engineering, but worst in architecture. And we have 21 batch, 98 pass out we are, and 21 students. So 2 of us only doing architecture right now. Rest all are bankers or in managers on some of the other field, and it's terrible because we are not inspired, to understand that. And those are inspired in many other batches, and it's not even done enough to realize what architecture is. And in 400 architects in the city as producing the same old theories, and there is, and you go to Raipur, go to Bhubaneswar, Pune, Kochi, Nagpur, Bhopal, you still get a much better architectural pieces. But still it's an amazing, but here it's an story of sorrow. And I really think you are right, absolutely. And that's my relation personally is.
Hello, sir. My name is Prashanjit Misra.
Yeah, no, continue.
Can I ask you the question in Bengali? I think we are all Bengali.
একটু জোরে বলবেন?
হ্যাঁ, তো আমার প্রশ্নটা ছিল এই যে যদি আপনাদেরকে আমি আপনাকে বলছি, যদি আপনাকে এই অপশনটা দেওয়া হয় যে পুরনো যা হিস্টোরিক্যাল আর্কিটেকচার যা আছে সেটাকে রেস্টোরেশন রেনোভেশন করে আপনি সেটাকে এখনের জন্য রাখতে চাইবেন, অথবা আদারওয়াইজ আপনি নতুন কোনো ক্রিয়েটিভ স্ট্রাকচার করতে চাইবেন, আপনি কোনটাকে বেছে নেবেন?
Both.
Thank you, sir.
Give it to her.
So this is especially for Abin, and maybe Parishta can also comment on it. So as a lover of heritage, I am, kind of very, very concerned about, protecting the idiom of neighborhoods and, the whole idiom of a building also. If a building is restored, the whole thing changes its structure. So can't we take out a booklet of kind of guidelines which helps it, which will restore our city to its initial greatness? I mean, it's really, really troublesome to see these places, defaced.
She basically works with paras, the entire para, and then...
I think that's an amazing question, because we have started with this, with an restoring neighborhoods. So there will be a research that we are doing with the restoring neighborhoods, and we started with Mudar Patheria, and we are documenting for many years, and honestly, with this proposal has been given to heritage commissions also. And the beautiful part of the para or neighborhood is that still there is a sense of belongings and warmth is there. The new smart cities are only smart. It's not creating a neighborhood, and that's a completely fallacy. And when we see those neighborhoods as a smaller, and that is why, and an example which people think about why Hindustan Park isn't kind of a source or a kind of place of our boutiques and a restaurant today. And because of it's also mathematics, because most of the houses is 2 kata, 3 kata, 4 kata, 6 kata. These are not good for the builders, but the most of the next generation left, and the generation who stays, who can't maintain, and that is why the ground floor, first floor become uncommercialized. And that is why in that policy, if we can really recalibrate those old houses and restoring this could be a fabulous example of creating a neighborhood with the restorings. That not be only in Hindustan Park, it could be Bhawanipur, it could be in many other places where an Art Deco buildings and heritage building are there, not even announced. And the policy of heritage building isn't really something shocking, because those have a heritage building grade 1. He's only praying when my building will be broken, and then I give it to someone else. And that is a tragedy of some kinds of laws. So,
I have another question. Sorry for being a pest, Darshan. But this will also include Parishta. So when we talk of heritage buildings, we often throw up the question of reuse, what you spoke about, the collaborative initiative. And most of these homeowners have come on very hard times. So we need to kind of provide them with a roadmap, which is what they don't have. So I think, people like Parishta and all can come forward and use them as art spaces and, little subsistence for living and upkeep of the premises. So unless we come forward, we can see a very dismal future for all these paras, old buildings, neighborhoods. Even heritage buildings, like Adumbini Ganguly's beautiful home is going to be pulled down shortly. So I think artists can come forward in a collaborative effort to keep it alive. I'm sorry.
Yes, what you said is actually, from artistic point, I would say that it is very important what Abin has said, but also not only restoring those, heritage building or proper old buildings, also to look at their color from exterior painting. That has to be also, coordinated and collaborative. Then it will look beautiful. You may really restore one building. Suddenly you make it into yellow or some different kind of color. It might be a very beautiful restored building, but very disoriented. It will not look very harmonized though it is done. When you see, in Venice or in Italy or France and some places, there are some colorful houses, but those colorful houses are also very beautifully, collaborative work. But that is also very important to keep the color, especially the exterior color, that it will look beautifully with other buildings, other restored buildings, and with the city and the environment.
Yes, yeah, we're closing, yeah. Last question. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's nice to have such a collage of creative minds here with us. But since, Ovin, you have an architecture foundation.
Louder, please.
You have an architecture foundation, right? If you see these days the landscaping of the cities, Indian cities, there is no character in the buildings. It's all topsy-turvy. Now, since you have the foundation, is there any way that you can have a dialogue with the governments of the day so that when you disembark from the plains in other cities, you see a beautiful landscaping of the city. But that doesn't happen in Indian cities anymore. So if you could throw some light on that.
For to start with, because our office in Hindustan Park, we created an 4 years back and master plan of landscape of whole Hindustan Park, Purnadas Road. I'm still waiting for the last 4 years. And every week we are sending a letter for given a grant without government money, without foundation money. I'm still waiting.
I hope we have a lot of press here to please address this tomorrow morning in the papers as headlines. And now I'll bring this session to a close because the next session is to start. And thank you so much. This would not have been possible without this wonderful audience. And let's put our hands together in appreciation for Paresh and Abin. Thank you.